morning and welcome to another guest masterclass inside the On Camera with Carmen membership. I'm Carmen. I'm delighted to see you here, especially considering that it is school holidays and I know so many of our members are parents in business. So thanks for making the effort to be here. I reckon Jade is crossing to us from the car en route to the airport right now with a bit of luck. I'm pretty sure you're heading off on holidays. Jennifer, great to see you. Lydia, happy birthday for Monday. How does 40 feel? I hope it's good. Pretty good? Yeah, nice. Great to see you. Great to see you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to put this masterclass together, Q&A style, all about speaking skills for the future and more specifically being a master of ceremonies, the MC, which can be Googled by spelling it out, E-M-C-E-E, as they did in Cabaret, the musical, the character, the MC, sometimes known as just the M.C for Master of Ceremonies. But it's more than that. The Master of Ceremonies is a person who sets the tone for the event, who can determine the success of an event based on the energy they bring to the room and what standards they set for the people who are in the room. And more often than not, they are your guests. If you're in business and you're putting on an event, the success of the event matters to you, and therefore so does the person you choose to be your MC, which is why I have specifically asked today's guest to join us. I want to tell you about my former client and now great friend and collaborator, Lily North. She's a person who gets me so excited. She's the founder of 3 businesses, and these all started out as side hustle businesses to her career. She's got the Belong Group, Belong Events, and Belong in Business Conference, where I'll be speaking for a second time in May, running a confidence on camera session. I'll just let a couple of people into the waiting room while I do this talking to you. Now, the really cool thing about Lily is that she is a people person. She loves bringing people together. One of those traits makes her an excellent MC, I'm sure you'll agree. She helps bringing businesses into the spotlight in her current role for the Belong Group and the Belong in Business Conference. And she's run a bunch of networking events to bring that together. So you can see, again, she's got this awesome ability to bring people together. She's a proud Territorian. She's lived in Darwin since 2012 and is making big splash there these days. But she's worked in so many different industries: retail, real estate, development, construction, not-for-profit, legal, the list goes on. So it means she has a really good sense of all business sensibilities and how to help you, which again are all traits that make her an excellent MC. So to talk to us today about how Lily has built up her business, not just those 3 businesses, but also through the skill of being a professional MC and how she has even used that to leverage an income for her business, I wanted to introduce you to Lily North today. Please make her welcome in a digital fashion. Hi, Lily.
Thank you for having me, Carmen. That was a lovely introduction.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You're an easy person to introduce. When I first met you, I couldn't help but be really impressed. You're a really switched on operator. You found me, which I felt like just was further evidence that you're a switched on operator. But no, you one quick look at your socials. Hi, Donna. Welcome into the room. Sorry, I thought I'd let you in a bit earlier. One quick look at your socials, Lily. Back then, even I could just see that you were so involved in your community and events in Darwin. I think at the time you were serving as an ambassador to the Darwin races. Tell us about that. Why don't you start by telling us about where you were when you met me?
Well, I think that was 2018, 19. We might have touched base for the first time, but I've been in the territory since 2012. And when I got there, I actually started out as a baby receptionist at the Law Society, of all things. So that was how I sort of got into the legal industry. And that's when I started actually doing my first event. So I was running the events for the Law Society there every year. And through that, I actually took on a president role with the Australian Institute of Office Professionals, which is what really kickstarted my event experience. So I did that for about 5 years, and that was a unpaid role, I should say, all volunteer. And I would put together all these events basically monthly, which were professional development events. And so I would have to source speakers, I would have to come up with a topic, I would have to market the event, and then I would have to speak at the event. So I got my first little bit of taste of emceeing through that volunteer role. And that's also what really drove me to actually start my business, because I thought, well, if I can do this as a volunteer, I think I could do this as a business. This is mad that I'm spending all this time, and I could be investing it into myself, you know. So that's sort of where I sort of got into that. And then I started Belong Events, which were the social events. And after a few years of doing that, I sort of thought, well, I could really do emceeing, but I didn't have any technical training on it. I just sort of, you know, did it off my own back and through my own experiences. And I thought, you know, Darwin's a small place. There's not too many people that do emceeing, and there's also not too many people that train MCs here. So I actually got onto Google, and I go down to Perth every year, generally around that Christmas time. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll do a bit of Googling. I'll see who does media training or MC training in Perth. And you popped up. And
Young
I thought,
SEO. Woohoo!
yeah,
Got that right.
yes. I just remember reading your website, and you looked so fun and so genuine and inviting. And I thought, you know, Carmen is a lady I think I could really get along with. And really nervous about actually investing so much money into a half-day workshop, you know, to do this. I was thinking, oh, you know, is this going to pay off? Like, am I going to, you know, get anything out of it? You know, and then it was like the minute we started and, you know, doing all the run throughs and you were there, like actually going through, okay, Lily, you need to focus on this, you know, think about having an out at the end when you're talking, you know, think about the way that you're projecting your voice, your volume, and all those things that I just didn't even realize that maybe I hadn't focused on in the past. And you were just so easy to work with, and I loved it. So yeah, I did that. And then that was pretty much my start of my professional emceeing. After that, I announced it on my social media, and then people started booking me.
Well, that's a glowing wrap for me. So I thank you very much for that, Lily. But I think a lot of this definitely came from you. I want to point out just how young you still are. So you're talking about arriving in the Territory in 2012, and you started working with that law firm. How old were you when you decided to go into business?
So what was that, 2018? What was that, 5 years ago? So I would have been 25.
Oh my gosh. Maturity beyond your years. And a lot of people can experience imposter syndrome, fear, uncertainty. What do you think about your professional background allowed you to plow on in spite of what I expect are some quite natural feelings of uncertainty?
And I mean, I still have such a big imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people do with you know what they do in their profession. But I remember, like, specifically working with lawyers. So we were the regulators of lawyers. And when I first started, I had this big picture of what lawyers are, and they're incredibly intimidating and scary people, and they're so much more intelligent than me, and I can't even possibly have a conversation with them. And then I started working with like all these lawyers in the Territory, and you know, some of them are they're just normal people. They're just normal people. Everyone is. They have a job, you know, they go to work. And in the Territory, it's really great. Everyone's really, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that are very casual. You know, we have barristers that go to work on their scooters and wear thongs, you know, like it's such a different place up here. But it sort of made me realize that I guess I wasn't giving myself enough credit for, you know, what I have actually achieved. You know, I have also done a business degree. I understand business. I've worked in lots of different areas. I've attended a lot of events. And so I had all that experience from seeing how events were run. And then now being able to MC them, I can actually give that extra value, because sometimes MCs are just MCs, but I'm also an event manager. Mm-hmm. So I understand the back end and the front end of events. And it's only sort of now I've come into, now I'm 30, and you know, you get wisdom apparently when you're 30. I can kind of, actually, Lily, like, I've worked really hard to get where I am, and I'm definitely not perfect, but I need to back myself and give myself enough credit for, you know, all the experience that I've got behind me.
You absolutely do. And we all need to do this. You know, there's so much that we gain from our, not just our career experiences, even our life experiences that we fail to give ourselves credit for, like you point out. And I love that realization when you met, you know, people who probably should be on paper, quite intimidating people, the lawyers of the firm, and, you know, and you just realize they're everyday people. And the same thing happened to me in radio stations very, very quickly, particularly some of the radio presenters with TV profiles that I would meet. And you suddenly go, well, they're sort of no different to me. And I'll acknowledge, we always have to acknowledge there's a privilege element in this. You know, if you see someone who kind of looks and feels like you think it's not too hard to emulate that person. So it's pretty easy for some of us to say that. However, when you can actually just start to realize that we're all humans and we all wake up and we have the same challenges, there's not a lot separating you between that person who's gone off and done something really special, supposedly, with their life, is there?
No, not at all. And, you know, I think too, now that you get to a point where you have done things a number of times and they come easy to you, you know, I quite often get people say like, oh my God, like how do you run events? Like they're so hard. And I go, what? Well, not really. But then I'm like, oh, I guess that means that like that's when you get good at what you do, right? It's supposed to come easy to you, but for others, it's not. And that's where your value proposition is, because you become a master of the thing that you are passionate about. So yeah, I think I don't know, that's sort of my take on it.
It's a good way to start a business, is to find that thing that you find easy that other people tell you is difficult, and make it happen. You know, there are people out there with so many choices, they find all kinds of things easy, but it's also nice to be able to narrow it down. Lily, let's talk then about that, the element of emceeing and how you have been able to attribute that to your business's success, because as an event manager, I'm sure you could actually hire other MCs, and maybe you do from time to time due to availability. But there's probably a bit of an element of you fronting the event that helps create its success. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, so with my business model, what it's been like for the last 4 years is that the events that I've run, they've been my own. So I've essentially created the event from scratch and I've marketed the event. So it's very much, it's a belong event. So with that, I've always emceed my own events. And so I think, you know, being able to talk about the reason why you created your own event and you know, why it's important that we're all here, or, you know, the value that you're all going to get out of attending this event, I think is a lot easier to articulate when you're the person that's speaking about it. And what I've managed to be able to get from that is also future business with emceeing, because people will attend a Belong event and then they'll see me MC and then they'll pick up the phone and be like, well, we've got something coming up, would you be interested? So moving forward, I have also offered another service of event management planning for other events now. So whether or not they may or may not want me, but they just might want me to organize their event, which is fine. But another wonderful thing in Darwin is that, you know, a lot of the MCs are fantastic at referrals here. And that's actually how I got my very first gig, I think, was from one of the other MCs, wasn't available. And she put my, you know, name in the ring and they picked it out of the hat. So that's another really great thing is Darwin's really fantastic at, you know, that referrals, and we're all in it together, and, you know, you may as well just try and give business to another person, and particularly a young female as well. I think we've got some real good camaraderie up here.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And yeah, to those of you in Perth watching right now, there's definitely a similar sense of that. I always felt like when I was doing more MC work and when I was particularly in broadcasting, you get so many inquiries. So we actually wanted other people in the pool to share that work with, and it was always a nice thing to build that network and just make it clear on your socials, if you want to be emceeing events, that you are available to do that, but you should also provide a bit of social proof that you're going to do a good job of it. I think one of the reasons Lily has fast-tracked so well with her MC professionally is that people had plenty of evidence. They could see her at her own events, they saw the events being successful. You have to let us know exactly what kinds of events they were. But your socials can really do the storytelling. And personally, I have found that as long as I'm posting some video content of me fronting events or even just photographs, it's just enough evidence for people, along with testimonials, that they will then invest in you to run their event or to host their event. So it can work that way. But yeah, making friends with other people in the industry is so important. Lily, yeah, and please, guys, feel free to use the chat box to pipe in with any questions of your own, as usual. Love a nice open chat. Dive in and get any value from Lily as you would like. Yeah, take us through what kind of events you do. And I'd also like to know, and we can go back to this question if need be, but I just don't want to forget, storytelling. How important do you think it is to share your story? And you mentioned that reason behind the event. Like, how important is that storytelling element of what you do as an MC? But first of all, yeah, what's the Belong event agenda?
Yeah, so with when I first started, Belong Events was purely social events. So they were more bit of the party side, and probably a bit more reflective of when I was a little bit younger as well. And they were sort of like, balls, they were boat parties, they were fancy little events in Darwin, because, it's quite casual here. We don't have a lot of opportunities to dress up. So quite often when people move up from down south, which is anywhere other than Darwin,
Everything down south, yeah.
Good clothes at home because there's nowhere to dress up in Darwin. So I really wanted to create a space where people could, express their individual styles and be able to come and have a nice few cocktails and, DJ and things like that. So I did that for a while, and the boat parties were always so much fun. And then I decided that I wanted to run more networking and professional development events. And so I ran that through the Belong group. So I kind of separated the two because they were two different demographics. And I would have, like a brunch event, and I would get some local business speakers to talk about their stories in business. I do an International Women's Day event as well. This year it was fantastic. We had, I think, 160 people attend this year, which is a decent number for Darwin.
Yeah.
We've only got about 110,000 people in the top end area. So to get anything over 100 is always a good number here. And this year we have really is that your dog? Who was sharing?
I'm going to mute while Piper just goes bananas as someone comes to the door. Lily, hold the floor. You'll be right.
I will. So yeah, this year we had 3 different speakers from very different industries, and I do that on purpose because when I'm doing a panel, I really like to choose women from different industries so they can give their different perspectives on business. And then the other event that I started last year from scratch, I've had the idea for a few years, was the Belong in Business Conference. And that's really its own brand now. And I've decided to run it again in Darwin. And that conference is a one-day conference that is designed to support small to medium-sized business owners and anyone in business looking to upskill themselves. And it's really focusing on all those foundational skills that are critical to making any business a success. So, we focus on sales, PR, marketing, confidence on camera, finance. We're even doing AI this year as well. But I really wanted to create a space in Darwin for people to come and get all their professional development in one day, because there's really nothing like it. And I guess one of the benefits of my business model is that if I see a demand or a gap for something, I can just create it here. It's really easy, not easy, I should say. It's quick for me to be able to actually whip up an event if you do sort of find that demand there. I've got a great graphic designer who can really just nail my vision for what I want. And then I've got sort of the back end processes already built now with my events that I can, ticket them through my own website, which, saving a bit of money there through going through third-party platforms. And then also getting everyone's email addresses to put on your e-newsletter. So then after the event, you can send out things. So it's kind of a way of being able to build your funnel as well, and all your network is being able to have these events to be able to get people in. They can see what we do, they like it, and then it's, you know, they're there, then we can promote to them in the future. You're on mute.
Still on mute because Piper was still barking in the background to just spare all of that. Yeah, such important strategies around marketing. A couple of comments in the chat box, which I'll read, and we'll come back to storytelling. I wish I could make it, says Jade, to the Belong in Business conference in Darwin. Only just be getting back from holidays, so maybe next year. So maybe some more interest from us West Australians to come up to Darwin next year. And Jennifer did have to sign off, but she says, keen to watch the rest of the playback, as she would love to be an MC. Thanks to you, Lily. And love connecting people too. Yeah, Jen is a wonderful connector of people and definitely has the chops to be an MC, Jen, when you're watching this. So let's talk about some of those technical aspects of being a good MC, Lily, because you obviously, you know, you have the credentials in business and in events of all kinds. You know, I don't want to diminish those party style events you ran for a minute. They're amazing. The social calendar, when you live in a regional centre, and Darwin technically is in many ways a regional centre in terms of the vibe, the lifestyle, certainly reminds me of my time spent living in regional centres. You know, those times where we get to actually go put on a frock and hang out with friends and listen to an elevated kind of bit of entertainment, or, you know, they are really the social highlight of the year. And a lot of business is done at those events. You know, it's surprising. And so I would love to know, you know, was there much crossover between your audiences? But, you know, and when you started moving into those business events, how did you talk about it? Did you have to kind of do a bit of rebranding of Lily, or was it more smooth than that?
No, it seemed to be pretty smooth. I think, I don't know if it is my personal brand, but everyone seems to always say that, Lily, you wear so many different hats. So I think that just maybe is a part of me, and I don't think it's out of the ordinary if you know, I decided to, I don't know, start running festivals tomorrow. Like it wouldn't really be weird. So yeah, potentially it's just my brand. What was the other question that you had?
I'm wondering about, the stories that the way you talk about yourself, and you're already demonstrating that to us. You know, it doesn't seem like to me that you'd be afraid to stand up in an event and freewheel a bit, you know, go off script and actually talk a bit about why you decided to run the event and where it's come from. Do you think that helps make an event better, or do you think it's not appropriate for an MC to say too much like that?
No, I think I definitely think it just depends on your audience. And I think the beauty of having my own events is that I can really kind of put in what I want on the day. You know, if I want to ad-lib some things, I can. If I accidentally say a swear word, it's not the end of the world, you know, although I definitely don't do that for paid clients. But, you know, it was a little bit like that for the International Women's Day event. You know, we had this beautiful room full of like women, and I did something on the day where I actually asked all the business women in the room to stand up, and I thanked them. I thanked them for their courage. I thanked them for actually having the gumption to start a business, because it's so hard, you know, and that was me speaking from experience, because events are really freaking hard because not only do you need to put together an entire event, you have to market it and you have to make the sales to make it viable. At the end of the day, you are still running a business, and unfortunately, sometimes events just don't work out for whatever reason. And so from being able to speak from experience, I really thought it was important on International Women's Day, because, you know, we know that there's still not the same amount of women in business than there are men, and still there is that gender pay gap. And a really important thing for me is what I want to see is more women in business, because the more women in business, I think we're going to really reduce that gender pay gap in the future. We're going to create more flexible working conditions. And I just think they make better bosses. But, you know, being able to acknowledge all those women in the room, it was really, really important. And I was really unsure. I was like, oh, I don't know whether or not to actually do this, but I did it. And then I got some really fantastic feedback that they were like, thank you for acknowledging me. That was really lovely, you know. So there's that meaning behind some of the events that I do. And you know, for the Belong in Business conference, you know, I want to be able to empower other people in business to have the tools behind them, because knowledge is power. You know, getting all that experience from people and other people in business, you know, you can only grow from that. And if you're in a room full of other people that are in similar situations, it's only going to elevate you. And it's only going to create ideas and give you, you know, suggestions for your own business on how to grow and move forward. So, you know, for me, it's like that's the real special part of what I get to do is that I not only get to run a business and get to see all the highs and the lows, but I can actually talk about that through my emceeing, and it's not made up. Like, I know business is hard. Some days you just want to crawl in a ball and just cry, and then other days like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So you know, and then being able to, I guess, you know, go into the professional client side of emceeing. You know, I'm working with the Surf Lifesaving Club this week for their awards. It's the first time they're actually using an MC because they want to elevate the event. Yeah. And I congratulated them on that. You know, I said it's fantastic that you want to actually grow this event and elevate it. And having an MC is one of those things that can do that, because people kind of come and they go, oh, okay, this is a bit more formal this year, you know. So and also, you know, being able to sit down with them and go through their run sheet and give them suggestions on, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? You know, or usually in other events we might do this. And, you know, they're thankful for that experience that I have in the events, because, you know, not everyone runs events every day and it's a bit of a daunting thing to do sometimes. So yeah, I love being able to provide that extra value to people, because, you know, I love events and it's a whirlwind, but, you know, it's what gets me up in the morning.
That's a good thing. Yeah, and look, that's so important for the MC to have a sense of the timing and keep things moving along, and have the emotional intelligence actually to be able to sometimes add value through storytelling and sharing and things like that, particularly if it is your own event. And then other times, if you are working for somebody else, to say, hey, right now it's not about me. I'm here to make all these other people look good, you know. And that's what you're talking about there by the elevation of that event for Surf Lifesaving. You'll have a president, you'll have volunteers on the committee, and you'll have kids and nippers and all kinds of people running around on stage, and it is their moment to shine. But if they're distracted by trying to, like, one of their own is being the MC and got like almost a quadruple role, it kind of reduces the flow of the night, doesn't it? So the MC can really bring it all together.
Yeah, and also too, when it's like, you know, when you've got someone that's in-house as well, like, you know, they're like, oh, that's, you know, the committee member, like they might be chatting a bit in the audience. But when you've got an outsider and an MC that's kind of commanding a little bit of attention here, you know, people are like, oh, okay, well, we've got to sit and listen, you know, to what she's saying, you know, and you know, things will happen on the day as well. Like, I think something that's really important that I do when I run through my scripting for an event that I am emceeing, you know, I make sure that I have some filler words, because quite often what will happen in events is, you know, there'll be a technical problem, the video won't play, and, you know, someone will be running around in the back trying to get working, and we go, okay, we're going to move on to the next thing now. Or, you know, once again, I'd really like to thank our sponsors for this evening, which is X, Y, and Z. You know, later on we've got DJ X coming on. It's a fantastic event, blah, blah, blah. You know, so you want to kind of create some filler words just in case you're sort of up there going, oh, okay, someone doesn't know what's going on.
Which you kind of get a signal from the soundo of something like this, like just fill, please, fill. And you're like, oh, okay, what are we going to talk about? So they're really practical tips, Lou. That's excellent. So always, yeah, the sponsors are going to endear you to your employer, particularly if you are doing a professional MC gig. So always thank your sponsors again, and you can never thank your sponsors too many times. The other one you did is you forward sold, right? So you're talking about why people can hang around. I always talk about in the membership here, the what's in it for me factor. Every single person in the audience is wearing that big sign on their head. Well, what's in it for me? Why should I hang around? So a really great thing to do is just tell them why they should stay. Yeah. And what are your other tips for filling a bit of time? Have you come up with any games or interactive things or?
We have done a few games before, which was, I think it was for a giveaway. It was a heads and tails one. So you get everyone to stand up and then you flip a coin and then you get them to guess. And then generally it comes down to like the final three. And I had this game, but of course, when you look out onto a stage, it's quite often dimmed quite a lot. So you can't really see who's standing up. And I was struggling to see how many we had left because there were 3 prizes or something. So I had to get down to 5 and then that was the final. And then I sort of went, okay, now everyone can just come to the front in the middle on the dance floor. And so everyone sort of was looking at them all. And, you know, we had some music. I think they got up there and did a bit of a boogie or something. So it made it a little bit fun, a little bit more interactive, and people were a bit more focused on, oh, who's going to win in the final? So you just kind of have to sometimes. Another thing, particularly when you're emceeing like award nights, you'll tend to get like a lot of award nominations. One thing people don't necessarily know what to do. So they'll, like, if you're winning the award, it's really important to tell them, okay, tonight we're going to announce all the finalists and then we'll announce the winner. If you are a winner tonight, please walk up to the stage, collect your trophy, pose for a photo, and then make your way off the stage. And tonight we will not be doing any speeches, or we will. So sometimes the event organizer specifically says we don't want any finalists or winners to make any speeches because people just go on and on and on, or they'll say, yes, we will have the overall winner being able to say a speech. So it's just sometimes people just want their 5 seconds anyway, and they'll just come right onto the stage and you can't stop them. But, you know, just stand there politely smiling. And then if you kind of notice that they're really going over time, you kind of just politely inch forward so they kind of know that you're in their eye line a little bit. So, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for the timings of the event. That is one of your roles as an MC, is to make sure that we're on time. Also don't want to give the event manager a heart attack because from experience, it's very, very hectic when you're trying to get everything done, you know, within the timings. So a good MC is able to also make up timing as well. And, you know, whether or not you might be 5 minutes over, when you go for the dinner break, we can just cut that back by 5 minutes and then you can make up that time again. So there's also ways that you can do that, and you can work with the event manager on the night to do that. So that they're really appreciative. If you're an MC that's like, yeah, no worries, we'll make up the 5 minutes, it's fine. You know, you put them at ease as well. It means a lot. And it also just means that you're really easy to deal with as well, because on the night they will come up with so many last minute changes. Oh, X isn't here, this person's going to come onto the stage instead. So, you know, make sure you've got a pen. And the other thing I do with my notes, I make sure between the sessions, I have a lot of white space available, because if you're writing your agenda and there's nowhere to put written notes on the night when those changes happen, you kind of try to write it in really small writing, and when you're on stage trying to read it, it's not the greatest. So always leave a nice little white gap at the end of all your paragraphs, so that when people come up with those last minute changes, you've got some, you know, space to put some bigger writing so you can see it.
They always will. There will always be last minute changes. This is one of the reasons why I've seen some broadcasters do terribly as MCs. You know, people always go, oh, let's ask the person from the radio or the TV presenter. But often they're people who are a bit shit at dealing with change like that, you know, that live setting. So yeah, there's not a lot of room for diva behavior. Let's put it that way. When you're an MC, you've got to be a little malleable and go with it, go with the flow. Love those tips. The white space on the script, you know, and the script is the same. Script in inverted commas, right? It's just the dot points of what's coming up with talking points. You kind of learn talking points around the event ahead of turning up. And I know that Lily's really good at this. You know, you understand who your sponsors are. You might still have them written somewhere, obviously. They're there to remind you. But that trick to getting your eyes up off of the page really comes from that working knowledge of why the event happened and who the gold sponsor is and who we're going to acknowledge in terms of the president or whoever's in the room. You know, there's a few kind of important people. If you've committed those things to memory, it just makes it a lot easier when the really random curveballs start to come flinging in out of nowhere, and they will. They absolutely will. Lily, you mentioned feedback from the crowd before. That came up after the International Women's Day event, acknowledging the women in business. Have you ever had negative feedback to something that you've done?
You know what? I actually haven't had any negative feedback about emceeing, to be honest. Yeah.
In the events, yeah, do you have a strategy for dealing with, I don't know, a bit of a social media fallout or anything like that?
Yeah. Events, one thing I have now learned is that it doesn't matter how much money you have to put on an event, how big you make it, how many extra things you put in it. There will always be someone who is unhappy. So there is no physical way that you can probably please every single person, because at the end of the day, someone has to sit at the back. You like, that's just you can't get around that. Sometimes the food is not fantastic, and that you can't control that. That's the venue. They might not, get someone's dietary requirements right. Things happen. I had a boat party actually last year, and there were a couple of naughty boys on it. There were some young the boat party people said, right, we're turning this boat around early. And that was really unfortunate, because I had paying customers who were expecting a 2-hour boat cruise, and they only got an hour and a half. So, you have to manage that. And unfortunately, I had to wear that and give them, a discount on the next event. But you can't control other people's behavior sometimes. And there are things in events that you can't control as well. So, sound is really important. Sometimes the sound people can let you down. They might not mic up properly. They might not have the speakers in the right areas. I had some feedback actually once, just that they couldn't hear me from the back of the room, but I think it was probably because of the way that the sound people had put all the speakers around. But again, that's just feedback that you go back to your sound people, and then you go, okay, for next time, let's focus on this, and if the dietaries weren't right, you go back to the venue and you talk about that. So there's things in your control, and there are things out of your control, and it's no point of you focusing on the things that you can't control. Like, don't beat yourself up about that. If it was feedback about the way that you spoke, that's definitely something that you can take on and you can work with. If someone going, I don't like where I was seated and I didn't like my chicken, well, it's an event. Like, we can try better and make the chicken better next time, or we can sit you at a different time, and that'll happen. But I think in events and in emceeing as well, you've got to have a bit of a backbone too. Like, you are that public face. So if someone's going to say that they don't like something or they're upset with something, definitely take on all their comments, the things that you can change and make better, do. But also some people are just whingers and they like to whinge. So, and you will get that. So just don't take it to heart if you can.
I like that. It's a really great attitude to feedback. It makes us better. There's no real way to find out what you could do better until you actually kind of start putting something out there. And that really does apply to when you give an opinion on stage or give an opinion on camera. This comes up a lot for us inside this membership. Okay, I feel this way, but I'm a bit scared to kind of, put that out there. So, I think having that really open-minded attitude toward feedback is important, but also being very realistic about knowing what you can control and what you can't control. Lily, this is one that I've had a lot of trouble with. It's actually one of the reasons I choose not to MC nighttime events anymore. And I'd love to know if you've got any tips on this. How do you quieten down a noisy ass drunk crowd?
Oh, yes, it's very, very challenging. And I had an event last year actually, and it was a women's event in construction, and that was actually a very hard one to and there's a couple of things that you can do. So just the silence, standing there, just waiting, people will realize. The real MVPs of the night, though, are the people that get their wine glass and start tapping it for you. Yeah. And you just go, thanks, mate. Like, I really needed that. But people may not necessarily do that. And I just sort of say, ladies and gentlemen, can I just have your attention for a moment, please? We're about to get started, or, we're about to move on to some really exciting parts of the evening. I'll just grab your attention for a little bit longer. The dance floor is not too far away, but, we have a very important part coming up. So we would love your attention just for the next few moments, and then sort of pause for a bit And you might just need to get a little bit deeper in your voice with a bit more authority into it, just kind of going, okay, she's a bit serious now. It's like she really wants our attention.
Yeah.
And to go back into your sort of, light and fluffy after. But it is something that will always happen. And sometimes, if they're being really cheeky, I'll go, oh, table number 12 over there, I see that you're having a lot of fun. And then sort of a look like, guys or girls, what are you doing? But I tend not to try and do that. You don't really want to, point out people. But the long pauses, just sort of speaking with a bit more authority, just to kind of, get their attention in. And then, I haven't done it myself, but one of my fellow MCs actually just stood there and went, oi.
Yeah.
Went, oh, okay.
There are a few guys here in Perth who will use a big voice and a big shout, and they'll kind of just try and dim it down. Personally, I don't believe that works. And often, it's harder for a female voice to project in that way. So your strategies are perfect. That silence is on the money. It brings gravitas, and it just brings silence to the whole room. People are generally nice. They don't want to be the dickhead who's still carrying on. I have also taken my own wine glass up, but if I can't hold it with my mic, for instance, if I just hold it up, people start doing that tappy thing for you. So you're right, they are the MVPs of the night. That's a really good one. And in the past, I've also resorted to, and I probably don't recommend this, but at conferences now, it gives me a chance to talk about my history as a constable care puppeteer. So I go up and I do this hands on heads, everybody, hands on shoulders, because the teachers do this, hands in laps. Somehow they just all follow and they do it. So, you can find your own thing that kind of suits your personality. And I guess that one does suit my dorky personality at times. Lily, you've got so many practical tips for emceeing, and I really love that it's given you agency to grow your business in this really profound way. And now you're at this point where the business is becoming your full-time pursuit. I mean, I know that technically it is, but you are still doing a little bit of work in your day job. And how's that been this year transitioning out of it? Because I will say that's another one that a lot of us business owners would be very interested in, particularly those who are still managing a side hustle or even thinking about jumping into something new.
Yeah, and I've been working full time since I first started working, and it's only this year that I decided to make the jump to part time. Which, I'm very easy to give advice to all my friends that they need to quit their jobs and go full time with their business. And I'm probably the worst one that doesn't take my own advice because, it's scary. But I also really love my day job. So I work in the development industry, and that's real estate is another passion of mine. And I do love my job, but I'm finding that what I found last year was running my business plus working full time. It just simply wasn't working for me. And I actually got quite unwell 18 months ago, to a point where I got adrenal fatigue because I was consistently at this very highly stressed state, and my body just shut down on me and it just couldn't function. So there comes a point where, the beauty of having your side hustle while you work is that you can get the income and you can slowly build up your business. And I've done that. I've done that to a point where people know the Belong name. They know who I am. I very well can go full time. And that's definitely what I want to work to probably at the end of this year. But you find that, once you start getting yourself a few solid days focusing on your business, you're like, oh, I want to do this, and it's just like, now there still isn't enough time. So I am probably moving towards that, going full-time sooner rather than later. And it is a point of being able to back yourself too, and it is very scary because you're leaving that consistent income to potentially inconsistent income, and you don't know what the future holds with that. But, in business, sometimes you just have to take that jump and go for it. So, and what you'll find is when you are solely dedicated and focused on one thing, that will grow very quickly. You'll actually have the time to do your business development, to attend more networking events, to get your name out there. There's all these things that you can be doing, and finding people to support your business as well. So, that's I actually can't remember what the question was, but
Well, it sounds like it's going very well, Lily. Yeah, with the move away from that job. And I would say, yeah, you are in my category of list of people who I know who have really taken their business to a complete full operating machine before you've even made that leap away from the day job, which is, you know, really a very sensible way to go about it. But I know it's only going to be a matter of time now before it's your full-time pursuit. And I know it's going to be hard to break up with the day job, because you know you're very valued there and you love it very much. And that's not surprising, is it, when you hear about the credentials Lily brings to the table? Lily, we'll wrap up shortly. So last minute questions, ladies. Jade, Lydia, Donna, if you've got anything you'd like to ask, feel free to pop in the chat box or unmute yourself now. If you were to give anybody some tips to get started as an MC or to MC their own event, what would you say would be the most important thing to focus on?
I think, try and get some training first if you can. Get some experience, and whether or not you can even volunteer to be on a panel or something, just to kind of wet your feet a little bit, get some experience on talking on a microphone, particularly if you have never really spoken on a microphone before as well, because there are some things that, where to hold it, how to, what to do with your hands, all those things. But it is very scary when you haven't done it before. But start small if you can. If there is any sort of networking groups around, maybe offer if you can do a bit of a speaking role to introduce some of the speakers at the event. There's other things like attending those networking events in your area as well. Just getting your name out there. I simply just told people that I was becoming an MC, and then I just got booked. So I don't know whether or not that will work for everyone, but maybe because I've had the well. But everyone's going to start somewhere. I think you could also offer your services for free for the first 2 MCing gigs. Someone will take that up, I'm sure. A not-for-profit organization, like heaps of not-for-profit organizations do award nights, volunteer thank you nights. That's a great opportunity just to attend and start to practice those skills and just get used to being in front of people and talking to them.
Yeah, really, really nice advice. I agree that your personal brand probably really helped support you move into that role, for sure. You're already associated with events. However, you're right that experience level of being the one who's relied on to host that event, that is something you can be quite deliberate about achieving. And I really like that tip. This is something I wish I knew 20 years ago, that if you are going to offer yourself up as a free MC, there will be certain roles and certain, I did jobs on radio where I wanted to be a free MC because I wanted that exposure. I really did genuinely need the exposure. But for most of us, there's not a lot of exposure benefit other than maybe that next gig. So you might want to be a little bit, be strategic with the way you promote that. Like Lily says, say, listen, I'm wanting to get out there and be seen as an MC. I've done this and this to prepare myself. I know I can do a great job for you. I'm open to the first 2 not-for-profits who reach out to me. I would love to MC your event for free. In exchange, I would really appreciate your testimonial, referral, really ask for that stuff. That's people will want to help you, especially if you give them that MC job for free. It's a big problem for a lot of organizations trying to find someone to help them. And yes, historically, sadly, broadcasters get hit up all the time and they tend to get sick of saying no. So you will be helping them out, but you'll need to bring value to the table at the same time, because they probably will be sitting there going, I want the local newsreader. So you need to kind of go, well, what will you bring to the table that is as good as the local newsreader? But the trade-off is that they need to give you that bit of, feedback. Have you had good success getting testimonials from people as part of your marketing, Lily? You just probably haven't needed them, I suppose.
I haven't really. I've got a couple, which they're on my website, and it's probably something that I need to sort of focus on a little bit more, just sort of following up after the events, getting people to actually give me a written testimonial as well. But also the other thing as well, when they have a professional photographer there, if you can ask the event manager after if they could send through any photos of you actually emceeing. So that's something that's really important, at least people seeing me with a microphone on a stage, that's that social proof that, oh, she is an MC. She's like, she walks on stage and talks, so that's important for my socials as well. I try and do that, but also I guess again with my business, I work with photographers, and so I know a few around the place as well, so it's good, they'll flick me a couple of photos as well on the side. So another thing is making those connections with the people that are not only the MC, but like, the videographers and the photographers and the sound people and, event managers around town. That's another big thing that event companies will have particular MCs that they work with as well. So, hitting up all the event management companies in your area, introducing yourself as an MC, because there will be times when their go-to MCs just aren't available. And, if that means that you're the fourth choice, who cares? Like, you get like, that's all. And that's happened to me. I think I was like the third choice one time, and I was like, that's fine. I got asked back the next year, and I couldn't actually do it, but the fact is I got asked back. So
I don't think there have been many jobs on radio where I was the first choice. Honestly, you've just got to get in there, do the thing, prove yourself once you're in there. So important. And to bring that cheery disposition, being really easy to work with, like you explained. And yes, as an alternative to going to a speaker bureau, right? If you take a look, like you could do a little faux inquiry one time. If you ask a speaker bureau, I love working through bureaus because they pay better, right? They have to charge a lot of money to get their bottom lines to work. So if you're a freelancer and you can kind of work directly with those organizations who will need you, whether it's direct to the event company, the soundos, being the person who gets recommended because you're good to work with, being not just not being, we'd have to be nice, we don't have to be people pleasers, but don't be a dick, as Adam Hills would say. And there are a lot of dicks out there, and you really be surprised by just how far you can go by being agreeable.
Easy to work with, and particularly the event managers, if you can make their life just that little bit easier, because they will be on very high cortisol levels at that event. So if you can just be that calm presence with a little bit of authority, they're just like, thank you for being. So
love it. Great advice about the photos too. I double that for video. Just ask, is there going to be a videographer at the event? Again, these are leveraging points. If you're negotiating a rate and maybe you're not going to get as much as you want, then you can say, hey, well, if there's going to be a videographer, is there any chance I could at least just get a few snippets? Very often, and it's fair enough, the events photographer or videographer might not take photos of the MC because it's not about them. They're kind of surplus to the occasion, and that's fine. So you do need to ask. You might need to say, is it just okay if we put on the photography brief or the videography brief just a couple of 15-second shots of this person, because you can use that for great expertise building content through your social media. Really good stuff. Lily, Belong in Business Conference is coming up in Darwin on the 11th of May.
Yes,
off the top of my head. Very soon. And obviously we're West Australians, most of us in the room right now. If we want to grab tickets and fly up there to be with you, where can we find more information?
Yes, so you can head to the Belong in Business website, which is just belonginbusiness.com.au. And I hadn't actually told you, Carmen, but I was going to give your members a special discount if they would like to get tickets. And if you can't fly up, we are happy to give that discount for the virtual tickets as well. So if you would like to attend virtually. So I will send a little discount code after this, and that'll give you a little bit off.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you, Lily. Very generous. I will make sure that is in the follow-up email with the recording that we have just made of this particular masterclass, and you can access your tickets that way. Like I mentioned, there'll be a confidence on camera workshop there that you'll be able to watch. Jade says, yay, thanks. Other masterclass presenters that you've seen in here in the membership will be there as well, including Harriet Meller, the sales coach, who is in fact a great friend of Lily's. The three of us have had some good times frolicking around Broome and Darwin over the last couple of years since we became mates. And Brooke Valinovich of the Social Club is one of the speakers at Belong in Business this year, only in Darwin, only in May. So yeah, if you're interested in that virtual package, I reckon that's a bit of a winner, particularly if you can't fly up there to be with us. If you can fly up there to be with us, I've still got spots on the retreat, by the way. Lily, this has been super valuable. Thank you so much for sharing your insights into not just emceeing. That was certainly the focus of today, but as you guys can see, there's a huge amount of business credential and skill set and knowledge in Lily's head that we were able to tap into there. So I wanted you to get a sense of that too. So Lily, thanks for making yourself available, especially when you got so much going on over there preparing for Belong in Business. What's on the rest of the day in Darwin?
Oh, well, I'm about to actually do a site inspection. So I'm lucky enough, I live like just 2 doors down from the venue. So I'm going to walk up at about 12 o'clock Darwin time just to go check it out and scope out the venue, make sure we're all happy with it for the event. But no, thank you so much for the opportunity, Carmen. It's been lovely to even just get to know you over these last few years, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. And I must say, like, with our feedback from the conference last year, you were the most popular speaker. So
thank you. Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you. It's not about that, but obviously it is. Yes.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was lovely speaking to everyone.
Yeah, great. All right. This is going to be one of those unmissable recordings, which I will put into your email shortly. This is going into the content bank as well inside the membership here. Lily North, thank you so much. We'll be following everything that Belong Events does and Belong in Business and Belong Group in general. And we'll be back with another masterclass next month. In fact, we are taking a few weeks off now because it's school holidays and all those things. And we'll see you when we do our group coaching call. I think it's sometime late in April. I don't know. I'm going on holidays soon too. Let's just tap out, shall we? Thanks, Lily. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Jade and Lydia, and earlier to Jen. And thank you for watching the recording. It's been a real pleasure. See you soon.